8:44 news and views on Salam Media. We are now going to be talking with Thabo Maisela. He is the special advisor to the executive mayor on Inner City Regeneration. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners.
Okay, we understand that Joburg City's neglect has allowed slumlords to retake buildings and planned evictions seem to keep hitting snags. What is in fact going on? Is that a correct assessment of the situation? Because we've been told that officials of the city of Johannesburg's property company has failed to secure a derelict building they had wrestled from the control of hijackers 4 years ago, leading to that particular building's recapture by the syndicate.
Yeah,
Tabo?
it is correct. Yes, it is correct. Maybe let me start by clarifying the types of bad buildings that we have. So we have
Okay.
different types of classification in terms of bad buildings. So the first classification will be where the owner is present and also in control but does not maintain the building. So that would be classified as a bad building. Now, how you deal with that would be the city through the by law enforcement unit or property management division in planning, talking to the owner to refurbish their building. Then you have a situation where the owner is present but is not in control. So that would be a hijacked building. And therefore, there we work with law enforcement agencies to try and rescue these buildings and give them back to their property owners. And then the third category is where the owner is absent. They could be absent in the sense that they have abandoned the building, or they are absent in the sense that they have left the country or probably have passed on. So with that, we then try to get a declaratory order or expropriate those buildings so that we can then renovate them. Now, when it comes to city properties, yes, we do have properties that are hijacked in the inner city. And sometimes, like you do indicate with this one, we win them back. But whilst in the process of trying to renovate those buildings, the syndicates now re-invade these buildings and people in there and start charging them renters. And to deal with such problems, it becomes a bit tedious. Even with private property owners, when they try to get eviction, there was a constitutional court order in a matter known as the Blue Moonlight case, where the constitutional court said if people are evicted, they cannot be evicted into the streets and where they become homeless. That an emergency arises, and therefore the city must respond to that emergency by providing temporary emergency accommodation. And that's where we find ourselves stuck, where you find, in actual fact, with the last count, we had about 8,000 matters where eviction orders were successfully granted and the city compelled to provide alternative accommodation. You must remember that housing provision is a national competency and a municipal function. However, the Constitutional Court said to provide temporary emergency accommodation is a municipal function, and therefore the city has got to make out of its own sources of revenue means to be able to provide this accommodation.
So it almost sounds like your hands are tied. You've sketched out a situation where you have the issue around the owner is present but doesn't maintain the building. The owner is present but can't control the situation that goes on as far as the tenants are concerned. They probably threaten him. When he wants to try and do maintenance or maybe up the rental or just don't pay the rental. So I think in point number two, the owner feels very threatened by the residents or syndicates. And number three is that the owner, as you've indicated, is either the owner is absent due to having passed away or have left the country. So loses complete control over the management of the building. Um, and then you raise the issue around the constitutional court. This truly I can understand and see how it's playing out. Ties as far as city COJ is concerned. Your hands are tied as far as this is concerned. Are you guys going to approach the Constitutional Court to re-look at that finding? Because you're not going to be able to make any headway whatsoever with that finding in place. I also know of a lot of private home owners in townships and suburbs. They have unbelievable challenges as far as tenants are concerned, and they can do nothing about it. Tenants owe them monies, rentals for years on end, and they can't get rid of them because they've got to find them alternate accommodation. It truly, truly ties your hands as a property owner, does it not?
It really does. This hijacking is not only of buildings, even private houses are now being hijacked. And sometimes these hijackers are very violent when they hijack these buildings. So it does present itself as a major challenge. You must remember that in terms of the PI Act, which is the Prevention of Illegal Occupation or Illegal Eviction, it was meant for farm areas where farmers in the early 90s were evicting people from farmlands who have been staying there for years. But in terms of how this law was crafted, it was a general application. So people are now using it to demand alternative accommodation, even in private residence. So you could go on holiday, and when you come back from holidays, there's someone staying in your house, and they say they've been staying there for 48 hours. For you to get them out
Sure.
of work, you must get an eviction order. And that eviction order might then say the city must provide alternative accommodation to the people who are staying in your house.
So, Tabo, this is definitely a catch-22 situation. And if COJ or the Constitutional Court doesn't really look at this issue, the entire country is going to become derelict as far as hijacked buildings and houses are concerned. What do you guys plan on doing? How are you going to take the matter forward and start regaining control of the buildings and hijack buildings and hijack houses in Johannesburg and I should imagine all around the country?
Yeah, look, what we have to accept is that we live now in a democratic dispensation where there's a Bill of Rights, and that Bill of Rights guarantees people to shelter. So shelter is a human rights issue, and therefore, as the city, our approach has been to now begin to plan adequately to provide adequate shelter. One, two, to begin to also put the necessary budgets in place. I'm sure the mayor, we have the first sub-mural of this administration, sub-mural on Inner City, which is chaired by the mayor himself. After that meeting, I'm expecting the mayor to make pronouncements on the plans that we have been working on over the years and that we are now implementing in terms of providing the temporary emergency accommodation so that we can start dealing with these bad buildings in the inner city.
Well, you certainly have a huge task on your hands because I think you are going to have to first and foremost deal with the hijacking kingpins because they're going to try and thwart your plans all along the way. Are you thinking of bringing in the SANDF? Because clearly SAPs aren't able to deal with this matter, they're not adequately resourced.
Yeah, where we have successfully taken the buildings back was a multi-sectoral tax team. So you had your JMPD, you had the Group Forensic Investigation Services in the city, you had the Hawks participating, then SAPS, and we were able to wrestle these buildings out of the hands of the hijackers and give them to their rightful owners. We currently have quite a number of buildings or properties that are under investigation. So as soon as those investigations are concluded, these multidisciplinary task teams will then begin to act on these hijackers.
Good luck to you and all involved in trying to rectify this disastrous situation that we find ourselves in. We do hope that it goes well, and we do hope that the next time we talk with you, you're going to give us a report back with some very, very good news. So you go well. You do have a huge task on your hands. Go well and God bless.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thabo Maisela, Special Advisor to the executive mayor on inner city regeneration. That gives me a bit of hope that there are plans afoot to try and reclaim hijacked buildings and try and regenerate them so that people can get into decent housing situations and let us become a world class city once again. It is doable, and hopefully we will get there. 8:54, and we do need to share with you some breaking news regarding the Moroccan earthquake. And we understand that the race is on to find survivors as the death toll tops 2,800 people. Rescuers are racing the clock to find survivors in the rubble more than 48 hours after Morocco's deadliest earthquake in more than 6 decades. More than 2,800 people were killed in the disaster that devastated villages in the high Atlas Mountains. Aftershocks will continue to rock Morocco weeks or months. This is what a seismologist expert has warned. Remy Mossou, the director of the European Mediterranean Seismological Center, told Sky News that more than 25 aftershocks have already hit the country since the 6.8 magnitude earthquake. And I quote, there will be aftershocks. It is not probably, it is a certainty, he said. Some villagers say they are struggling to find enough space to bury their dead as funerals take place beside rescue work. Others are preparing extra graves ready for more bodies even as rescue operations continue. Morocco's King Mohammed has thanked Spain, Qatar, the United Kingdom, the UAE, and other countries for sending aid, with the UK government set to send 60 search and rescue specialists and 4 search dogs to Morocco. The damage from the quake could take several years to repair, according to the Red Cross.